This is Senua's Saga, Hellblade II. We're doing a comparison. On the left, we have PlayStation 5 Pro. On the right, we have Xbox Series X. These videos are a ton of work to put together, so be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So we're going to be diving in and talking about the differences between the two versions as of the enhanced magical, now with PlayStation we suddenly get 60 FPS sort of state of things, which is quite fascinating. So the content can drop at the same time. It's a fresh release for PlayStation, whereas Xbox, it's been out for about a year at the point of this particular release. So it is quite interesting to see kind of the differences here for something that is PlayStation 5 Pro Enhanced versus the regular optimization for Series X, now with the extra optimization to actually provide a, well, higher frame rate, I guess you would say, which is quite interesting. So we're going to be showing off a variety of different scenarios and setups here for the different modes. I've also included the difference between just a quick brief thing for, like, you know, pisser versus like the TSR. Most of the video is the kind of, well, Unreal Engine 5 TSR, which is their resolution scaling technology, as that was the only thing the Xbox has, whereas PlayStation does have the additional pisser option that is available. So for the PlayStation 5 Pro, from a quality mode perspective, we're getting an output that is a full 4K as of minus the bars. So it's sort of like a 3840 by just slightly over 1600p. That is our upscaled output that the game is working towards, because again, everything is, you know, dynamic resolution, but it's also a sort of temporal upscaled solution as well. So the internal dynamic is 2560 by 1080p, 30 FPS because it's quality, and you'll just be seeing there the pisser versus TSR options, which are very similar. I wanted to just briefly show them in the video clip just so you can see maybe if there is a difference between them, and a kind of a stand by stand, where pisser on one side, TSR on the Xbox on the other side. That's more personal preference, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But yes, that is the quality mode, and it's basically just kind of keeping that resolution up a lot higher. Again, it's dynamic scaling and then outputting to the full amount. And then for the Series X, again, similar output. Everything has the same output across the board here. It's just that dynamic resolution scaling of 2560 by 1080 is a lot more aggressive, so you do get a softer picture, as it does drop a couple hundred, a few hundred p at times. And then when we switch over to the performance mode, the difference here is basically just, again, the resolution options. So it's the same output, you know, again, upscaling out to 3840 by like 1600 something p, and then dynamically being the same sort of target of 2560 by 1080p, targeting 60 FPS, and it's quite smooth across the board. From what I saw, it is actually fluidly hitting its mark across the board, and this is again where you're losing a few hundred more p on the Series X side of things, and it's just kind of like basically the Pro is just allowing it to hit those targets more effectively, and you just get a sort of richer or more dense pixel experience more consistently across the board, which is something I think you notice a bit in the footage, because I was kind of, when I was filming these, I was going back and forth. You know, I'd filmed it first on the PlayStation side of things, and then when I did it on Xbox, and you definitely, like, just even hopping from one to the next, you can definitely notice the visual fidelity, and I hope that kind of shows up on YouTube. Like, there is a definite difference there. And some of the lighting stuff, I think it's just more a little bit of a dynamic thing, because it is weird how some of the lighting's a little bit different between the two, unless it's like a bit of an artistic choice or something, but that is something else I noticed. So I wanted to go back to talking about the element of basically the PSSR, the pisser versus the TSR. It's more about like what you want preference-wise, and it's sort of mostly like vegetation and stuff like that, the softness or how the edges are sort of handled, so that's a lot more of a personal choice. But I thought it made a lot more sense to actually just mostly focus for this video on TSR, because that's something that's available on both platforms, whereas the other option is something that's only for PlayStation, so you don't get that, comparable sort of option, if that makes sense, and it's just more well set to actually compare two things that are available on both, and then give you a little bit of the other option as well, like I did, so that you can understand the differences between them. So, like, obviously, it is quite magical that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we have a higher frame rate. I would say that the Pro is easily making this game look visually better. There's definitely a resolution difference that you will notice playing it on the Pro. That being said, the question of whether or not you will revisit this game, whether or not you will care to replay it at the higher frame rate, is more for people that will play it down the road. You're getting a fluid experience across the board, whether you're doing quality or performance. I think performance is a very easy choice to go with, unless you do want that very cinematic sort of aesthetic and style. And liking the video is great, subscribing is great as well, and non-commentary gameplay.
Save this, but you didn't. To join you.
You hold your breath until you come. Then you gasp and the water rushes in. The pain in your chest. The pain is very. There's no peace.